Representative Margie Taylor Greene, who has officially filed a motion to vacate the Speaker. There's a one-member motion to vacate that would seek to oust current House Speaker Mike Johnson. Let's listen in as she explains her rationale.
All week long, do not break the 72-hour rule. He heard from all of us. He heard from all of us all week long. Allow us to introduce amendments. Allow us to do our jobs. Allow us to represent the districts that voted for us and sent us here. We want a secure border, and the Senate proposal of legalizing 5,000 people coming across the border every day is not securing the border, and this is giving up every point of leverage we have. Also, forcing Republicans to vote on full-term abortion funding in order to fund our military is a complete betrayal of all of our values, and our voters don't want us to be doing that.
What does the process of finding a new speaker look like?
When do you plan to call this resolution to the floor?
Again, I don't have a timeline. That will be a rolling issue that we'll be judging and making decisions by. But I assure you, I'm not the only one. I have support on this from others in my conference. And I'm not introducing this to throw the House into chaos. Committees will continue doing their work. Investigations will continue. I support my conference. Again, I have paid all of my dues to the NRCC and then some. I support Republicans holding the majority next conference, but we need a Speaker of the House that knows how to negotiate, knows how to walk in the room, knows how to hold the line, and knows how to defend America first and the values and the policies that President Trump will bring to next year.
You said that it's time to start the process to find a new speaker. What does that process look like without the motion to vacate?
That process allows everyone to have discussions and internal meetings and conversations. And it allows other people to step forward and say they're willing to run for speaker.
So we saw that in the fall. Should Johnson step down from speaker?
In mind that you would like to see as
not at this time. I want to have conversations, and I want to hear from others how they would have handled this.
Have you talked to Trump? Have you talked to Trump about this?
I have not talked to President Trump about this.
You said there's more support from Republicans. How many Republicans?
You would need.
I won't give you a number, but I've talked to many who probably won't go public, but silently they're breathing a sigh of relief. Everyone is. You can look at the numbers and the votes of this. This bill was passed without a majority of Republicans. This is a Democrat budget, and it was passed by Mike Johnson.
Should Johnson step down? Should Johnson have stepped down?
That'd be a choice that he would have to make, but we're going to have to find a new speaker.
We saw what happened in the fall. We saw one speaker candidate after another fall short of getting the votes necessary.
Even narrower now.
You can't. I mean, how could you possibly even find someone to succeed Mike Johnson who could get the votes, keep this conference together, and not plunge this chamber into chaos?
We're going to have to do it because the country is in crisis. We have a border invasion that's happening every single day. We have Americans under the age of 30, for the first time it's showing in all types of polling, have lost hope for their future. The younger generations can't afford to buy a home. Inflation is running rampant. Our country is in crisis, and we need real leaders that know how to fight, that know how to walk in a room and don't get rolled by the deep state, and don't get rolled by the Democrats, and don't get rolled into doing whatever it takes to maintain that power and position. We need a Speaker of the House that actually represents the people. This is the people's house. This is not Washington, D.C.'s house. This is the people's house.
Hang on, he brings up Ukraine. You're calling this a pink slip, a warning sign. The bottom line, you want Speaker Johnson out.
I wouldn't have filed a motion to vacate if I didn't. We need a new speaker. This is not personal against Mike Johnson. He's a very good man, and I have respect for him as a person, but he is not doing the job. The proof is in the vote count today. He passed a budget that should have never been brought to the floor, did not represent our conference, and it was passed with the Democrats and without the majority of the majority.
What happens if he moves on Ukraine? What happens if he moves on any aid to Ukraine?
That would also go against what the American people want. Polling shows that it's approximately 70% of the American people do not support continuing a war in Ukraine.
But would that be a triggering event for you?
The motion to vacate's already been filed. He should not bring funding for Ukraine.
Just to clarify, thank you. Sorry, in the back. Thank you. You are saying you will call for this vote, or are you saying you're still? I know you said no time.
I'm saying that we've started the clock to start the process to elect a new speaker, and I'm giving my conference time. I'm being respectful to my conference, but many members in my conference agree. Even though it's uncomfortable, it's a process none of us want to go through. It has to happen.
So this is kind of a way to avoid.
Would you be teaming with Democrats as well by ousting the Speaker of the House, just like Speaker Johnson did in teaming with Democrats to pass the government funding bill?
We have to find a new Speaker of the House. I'm not sure how that vote count would be, and I've heard a lot of Democrats may support him, so I'm not sure how that works out.
If they do that, don't you worry that you're basically pushing him or any new Speaker into the arms of Democrats? Because, like, at a certain point...
He's already in the arms of Democrats, and it's proof in the vote count today. This was a Democrat bill. This was not a Republican bill. We weren't allowed to introduce amendments. We weren't allowed to have a say. We weren't even given the respect of the 72-hour rule to read 1,012 pages.
So you think it would be better to shut the government down then? I mean, you were up against the clock. Would it have been better to shut the government down? It would have been
better back in October when he became Speaker to have actually worked on appropriation bills, stayed with single appropriation bills, and done what all of us had set out to do.
Could you guys bring McCarthy back? Could you bring McCarthy back? Do you think there would be the votes for that? I mean, technically, he doesn't have to be a member. I mean, I know you support him, so I'm just wondering.
Do you really think that there's someone who can get 218 votes to become Speaker of the House?
I certainly hope so.
I mean, it was so hard to go the last.
You were listening there to Margie Taylor Greene, who has filed a motion to vacate against Speaker Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson would need to maintain the support of his caucus to remain in power if she makes this live. Now, she has to announce this and make it live. It's been filed. I understand these rules are a little wonky. But essentially, Mike Johnson could only afford to lose 2 Republicans. That's after today when Ken Buck leaves. And Margie Taylor Greene there making some news. She said this: I have support on this from others. So others, that presumably means one, which would mean a motion to vacate if she truly has the votes, would in fact oust Speaker Mike Johnson. Again, she has to make this live. There's a 2-week break coming for Congress, and in April is when this would all transpire. But big news today that 1-member motion to vacate has been filed by Representative Margie Taylor Greene. This comes after a big spending bill where more Republicans voted against it than for it. Let's bring in Aisha Hasni. She will break down all the latest with us. Aisha.
Hey there. Well, yes, you just heard live from Margie Taylor Greene. And what the big takeaway, I think, for our audience is that right now, this is just a threat. Yes, she filed a motion to vacate, but she has not made it privileged. It's not live yet. She gets to decide when she wants to do that. If it does go live, then the House would be forced to take this up in a matter of 2 legislative days. That wouldn't happen until they come back from their Easter break in the next 2 weeks. So right now, nothing's happening yet. She's obviously left the building, and so she's not making the motion privileged just yet. I will say she was the only one who was threatening a motion to vacate leading up to this bill vote. I asked several members of the House Freedom Caucus, including the chairman, Bob Good, about it yesterday and today, and everyone was sort of waving me off of it, saying that they don't want to send the House into chaos. Now, what MTG is doing, as she's explaining here, is that she's giving her conference time to sort of look for a new leader. They are at least some of the conservatives in the House Freedom Caucus are very frustrated with how Mike Johnson is going about things, working with Democrats, reaching across the aisle to get big spending bills like this pushed through the House. So she's saying that she doesn't want to send the House into chaos, that she's trying to give the conference a little bit of time to try to figure out who might be a better speaker. Eli Crane also earlier this morning had some pretty tough words for Speaker Mike Johnson, saying that the gavel is essentially in the hands of Democrats. Now, Bob Good, again, the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, it sounds like no one was really aware that this was going to happen this morning. He told our cameras right as it was happening that he said, I don't know anybody who cares about what Margie Taylor Greene says. That's from Bob Good. So she's going to get a little bit of pushback from her own caucus on this. But again, we're just waiting to see if she actually will make this privilege. And then we go right back to last fall, where this conference has to look for a new speaker.